got it. Okay. I drink French roast. That means it's been cooked a little longer, roasted a little more deeply. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Get the TV glasses on. Let's go over to, thank you, Kate. Went over and I found an interesting video. So let's go over to the video section.
Hello everyone. Today we want to introduce about one of the direct marketing methods. Is it direct mail? We will begin with the definition of direct mail. After researching from many resources, we acknowledge direct mail marketing is any physical correspondence that we send to customer in the hope of getting them to patronize our business. This means company can reach customer via postal service and sending item to customer home address or business. On item send content marketing purpose or advertising message, and they are designed to increase sales and attract more potential customer or maintain current customer.
It kind of looks like a school book report on what direct mail is. I have no idea. This YouTube channel has one video up. It doesn't have any information about the person that built it. But like I said, once again, it shows that people are just doing videos about direct mail, and they're looking it up on Wikipedia, and they're cutting and pasting. And, if it's anything like the internet surge that happened in '95, they will become the direct mail experts of the future. And watch out for that. That's all I got to say, because, there were some bad consequences of it's all different. It's all going to change. There's still some fundamental principles. We're going to talk about that today. But before we do, we're going to talk about some fun stuff. So there's this company that rehabs old ski gondolas. They've been in business for 30 years or so. And they'd been rehabbing them. And, these are plexiglass windows that they pick you up and they carry you up to the top of the hill. Once in Aspen, we rode one down, and before we got launched down the hill, because we were tired, a lady stuck her head in the door and said, "If you have any fear of heights, you might want to walk down the hill." We didn't know why. Well, anyway, it turned out that there were really high winds, and these things were swinging back and forth as we went. Aspen has these long spans between posts where the thing goes, like a mile. And then about the middle of one of those big spans, it just stopped. And the thing, because there's slack in the cable, it went way up, and then it went way down, and then it went way up again really fast. I didn't know, and we're three of us, and we're like, out of college, but, young men, and we're holding the center post and screaming. And only later, I think like a couple of years later, I had one of the guys in there had actually been in therapy for their acrophobia, I think it is called, fear of heights. So I have some gondola experience. But the windows get banged up and stuff. So this company refurbishes the gondolas. But the woman who ran the company thought, it's a shame to throw these away, and I can probably get a better deal if I just buy the whole lot. And so she bought 55 from Stowe, Vermont, I think, and she bought like 95 from Steamboat Springs, and she just would buy the whole collection. And so she had a couple of hundred of them sitting around in her parking lot, and the ski hills closed early last year for COVID, even though they had snow. And so she was just figuring she's going to go bankrupt. And then a town called, a ski town, and they said, would it be possible to use these gondolas to expand restaurant capability? Because it's really cold out. Those little domes don't work. But these could work. And she said, yeah, sure. And so she's been selling them off now for $15,000 to $20,000 a piece. You can buy them as is, but they smell like they've been in use for 30 years. So what does this prove? It proves that sometimes you can position yourself to be lucky. All the advanced planning on Earth probably wouldn't have predicted this, but she thought it was a shame to throw them away. My father used to say, waste not, want not. And it's turned her business around. It's not just a refurbished gondolas, but it's a repurpose them as mini restaurant pods. So, and I think she sold them all. So, but she just went frantically working this late fall to try and. All of a sudden, the phone just started ringing, and everybody heard about it. And what a wonderful business story! What a wonderful country! What a great place for innovation! It's just great. I love it. I love capitalism. I love communication and the craziness of it all. And I have to say that's what it is to me. Okay? Right? It's just craziness on steroids. I'm going to go over to LinkedIn just to see if I'm working over there. Yeah, it seems to be working. Yep, okay, because I was on my restream. Okay, now we're going to go into this is, Mark Ritson. I always want to do whatever Mark Ritson says. I don't think this is his best work ever, but it's the kind of thing that marketing people need to know, and so I'm covering it today. Planning for marketing planning. 14 steps, which is, of course, too many steps. And I'm not going to cover them all, but I'll give you some of the high points. How do you do a marketing plan? It's really presenting a marketing plan is what it's about. How to build it and how to do it. And he says, this time of year, February is the pointy end of the planning cycle for many British marketers. But you really want to get the work done ahead of the finance team because otherwise they'll just give you a number and you'll be stuck with it. Okay? Makes sense? Right. And if they do that, marketing is just another cost. Just another cost, and that's all there is, right? And it will not be negotiable. Here's your money. Hope you can do something good with it. Cost-based marketing as a proportion of expected sales is exactly how most marketers derive their budgets. But he does give us some insight to break that cycle. And the interesting part is it's with a cycle. And I've told you about this a little bit. We're going to have a webinar at the end of the month, the last Thursday in February. I forget the date. We'll be sending out an email maybe today or in a couple days. And it's going to be partly about how to cost justify marketing and how to develop a marketing strategy, not just for reaching your market, but for elevating marketing. So that'll be interesting. Okay? And if you're a CEO, I think you really want to hear it because if your marketing people aren't doing this, then maybe they should be. Okay, so the marketing plan is a topic of discomfort and uncertainty to all marketers because it's a bunch of hard work. And do we ever hit the numbers? I mean, I used to do projections. I worked for a company for about 6 years as VP of marketing for some of that. And I was able to, in 6 years, be plus or minus 5%, I think 4 of the years. But I never quite hit it. 5% could be a pretty big number if you're a $20 million sales, company. And so I always felt bad because the accounting people, their numbers added up. The VP of finance, his always added up. Mine were always 5 or 6% off or 2%. 2% is phenomenal, by the way. And I think about half the years, three of the 6 years, I was within 2%. So for projection purposes, in terms of budget and revenue, you need some smooth water to sail over. But still, even then, that's pretty good. But I still felt bad. But I didn't realize until later that I was trying to predict the future, whereas the finance guys are just sorting out the past. So they already know the number at the end. They just have to figure out what parts made that number up. It's totally different. So Ritson says he's done a lot of marketing plans. You should have a marketing plan. You should do it for 12 months. Here's where it gets fun. 20 slides, 60 minutes. He said the marketing people always want to spend too damn long, 50, 60, 100, 200 slides, and then they get stuck in the middle and say, well, let me skip to the conclusion. Okay? And kill the extraneous and say in one bullet point what McKinsey would take 320,000 pounds to deliver. If you're not organized enough to do 20 slides in 60 minutes, then you're almost certainly not organized enough to execute this plan down the track. So here's the 3 parts that matter. Though he says there's no one formula. First, diagnose the situation using data. Second, put together a strategy. Third, plan the tactics. Okay, in that order. Now, we've spent a little bit of time, partly because of Ritson, talking about the difference between strategy and tactics. When somebody says, you should use mail, try mail. Add mail to your omni-channel, that's tactics. Okay? Instead of using, I had a client that used the benches. You know, the benches on the bus stops? And he thought those benches worked really well, and he could do them right around his store. And he thought that was better than just his own sign in front of his store. And maybe it was. So you say, instead of using those benches, this year we're going to use some direct mail. And he did some direct mail and got some results from it. But, it was a pretty small market around and a pretty unique store that he ran. But anyway, when you say those things, when you're allocating different marketing channels, that's tactics. Now, if you say, let's identify a customer persona and then let's confirm it with focus groups and then let's put all our money into a Super Bowl ad or something like that, that's almost more of a strategy. When Apple just put their whole budget on the Super Bowl ad and did a weird commercial, I would say, if that's your only shot for the year, that's kind of a strategy. That's beyond a tactic, right? Because that's just it, And I would also say that when you see the power, the self-learning power, the machine learning power of direct marketing, that can also be a strategic decision. As I talk to a lot of mailers and I say, how much do you test? And one told me at one of the oldest catalogs in America, said, well, our finance guy, our CFO rather, doesn't like us to test because one side of the test will reduce the overall profitability of the company. That's true, but what's the value of the lesson that you learn? Well, it could be worth 10 times that. So a strategy for direct marketing would be to invest in testing regularly. Always test something is the first principle I learned. And always invest. And then you have ammunition on what to tune as you go through the tactics through the year and in the plan. Okay? So there should be a diagnosis section, and later he's going to have a nifty diagram, which I'll go down to. And that diagnosis should start with, how did we do compared to last year? It's one of the things I always like to do with the machine learning modeling. Our modeling is transparent, so there's cells for each market group and some homogeneity inside there. And we can evaluate what the model predicted would happen versus what the actual was. And so given that, and I've had some clients that are absolutely meticulous about looking at that. And what that does is it gives us a second and third way to see the anomalies, to spot the markets that are doing better than expected, and to spot the markets that are doing worse than expected. Because no matter how careful you are on your marketing persona, unless you get the feedback loop, you can't do machine learning without it. And it's really hard to know whether you're just beating mature markets that would have ordered anyway. Those things are hard to tell. Or you're going after a market that another competitor is well entrenched in. See how hard this is? Even when you have the data, the context is difficult to open up and uncork. And so start with diagnosis and start with last year's plan. Start with what the expected results were. And in mail and in machine learning, the way we do it at least, you get absolute revenue per thousand, profit per thousand within each cell, so you can go back and we actually write them on the diagrams, and it's very effective. Here's the very nifty diagram. I wish I had a curvy line, but basically he says there's diagnosis, then there's strategy, then there's tactics, and then execution, and then you come back and do the same thing. Now that is exactly the process of direct marketing, right? Except we do it more deliberately and we do it in every mailing, okay? So that's a strategic side, segmentation, targeting, and then zoom, 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 zoom. So there's an iteration in here that keeps going around, okay? Start by closing the loop the previous year. I think it's really excellent. And then even if you don't hit your objectives, he says, there's nothing more comforting than marketing admitting they screwed up with the kind of insight and humility that suggests they won't make the same mistake again. It's almost as good as achieving the objective, right? Okay. And marketers love talking about their data, but no one else gives a blankety blank. The budget slide is literally 10 times more important than the insight slide. And when they ask you, and here's the kicker, when they ask you, can we achieve the same results with half the money? When you're in a direct marketing situation, you know exactly that there's an absolute relationship between the way you spend, the way you target, and the profitability, and the long-term customer lifetime value. But when you're in the rest of the world, almost always there is a way to spend less and achieve the same, at least top-line results. Procter & Gamble made a big deal about how they cut their digital ads by 40% and saw no reduction in sales. But Ritson says when you absolutely say no, and when the boss still cuts the budget, you say, well, then we should also be cutting the results by the same percentage. Okay. Segmentation is a map. This is a good piece. Segmentation is not strategy, but the tricky part is where will you play? This is maybe the most important part of the whole marketing plan. Okay, so for example, I've been focused on old-time catalog companies. Now there's a lot of modeling services that target those same customers. It's very difficult. And the emerging companies probably need me a lot more. And so we're moving to helping printers. And we're moving to helping emerging .coms and those kinds of companies understand the principles of direct marketing rather than trying to teach the catalogers what they should have known all along and refuse to acknowledge. But anyway, that's part of the game. Part of the game is the competitive climate always changes. And the more successful you are, especially if you go and speak at conferences and tell everybody, the more your competitors will circle their wagons and go after you. So, excellent article. Like and subscribe to WDMA, and you can go in and get the show notes. Does anybody get those show notes? Phoenix, have you ever gotten the show notes? You should try it. See if that works. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart.